Hey guys, we are going to go ahead and do your reading lesson for week 3. And what we're focusing on today is mostly compare and contrast, but I did want to do a review with you about what a fractured fairy tale is, because this is where you're going to get some of those biggest differences between your two stories. So your first original fairy tale was Jack and the Beanstalk, and so hopefully you've watched that on YouTube. And then your second story through our read aloud was Kate and the Beanstalk. So already in the title, I see that we have new or different characters. They've switched Jack to Kate. And then throughout the story, the author may have done a lot of these other changes to make the story seem different or funnier, or just to give their take on the story. So they could have switched good and bad characters. They could have put it in a different setting. They could have tried to make it funny in some way. Maybe it's through something that they said or through illustrations. They may have tried to make it more modern, meaning like not so old-timey. And then they may have made new or different events that may have also had like a new or different ending, or maybe they changed up kind of how we got to the ending throughout. So think about those things as you're completing your Venn diagram, but I want to go ahead and review with you what a Venn diagram is, just in case you've forgotten. So a Venn diagram is used to compare and contrast two things. So it says when you're comparing, you're looking for similarities between two things. That similarity means a way that they are the same or similar. When you're contrasting, you're looking for differences between two things. So you've got your Venn diagram set up. It's just two circles, but they overlap in the middle. So if I was doing this for my Jack and the Beanstalk, Kate and the Beanstalk, I'd have Kate on one side and Jack on the other side. And I would write differences like, oh, in the Kate story, there was this and this and this. And in the Jack story, there was this and this and this. But they both had this or this. And so anything that they had in common goes in the middle. It says you can use a Venn diagram to help compare and contrast characters, settings, and events while you read. So some keywords that you might use in your Venn diagram, if you're comparing ways that they're similar, you might say alike, the same, similarly, both, in common, or also. And if you're talking about ways that they were different, of course, when you're contrasting, you could use different, however, but, differences, whereas, or while. Now you may not have heard whereas used very often, but the way that that would work in a sentence would be, in Jack and the Beanstalk, the main character was a male, whereas in Kate and the Beanstalk, the main character is a female. So you're just using it in place of the word but, basically. So I was going to go ahead and do an example with you guys for a Venn diagram. I'm not going to give you all the answers to your Jack and Kate stories, but I figured I'd do one that we can all relate to right now. So we've got our two circles. And I'm going to go ahead and make this one learning at school. And this side would be learning at home. And then if you remember, what goes in the middle is things for both of them, what they both have in common. Okay, so if you were to fill out this chart, yours might look different than mine might look different than yours. So just remember that when you're the one filling it in, it's okay if your answers are different than the other person who was an example. So let me get some different colored markers out here. All right. So I'm going to have blue be my learning at home side. Okay, so when I'm learning at home, I am usually by myself. Now you may be with a family member or something like that, but usually what that looks like for me these past couple weeks is I'm by myself in here. Mostly, I get to be with Zoe. I am in a comfy chair. I have to record myself. I don't get to like give it in person to you guys. It's kind of awkward. Whenever I'm teaching y'all in person, I don't really feel awkward, but when I'm having to record myself and know that all of your parents and people might be watching, it's really awkward. Let's see. I can sleep in here. I can go to the bathroom whenever I want to. I miss you guys while I'm here. And I have to remember to give myself a recess. Because recess isn't really a thing right now, so I have to like remind myself to go outside. And so if I was going to fill out my learning at school side, sometimes a good way to do that is I just listed all these things about learning at home. So now I'm going to go over here and I can kind of look at each one and think, how is that different when I'm at school? So at school, I'm with kids and coworkers. No dogs allowed. Ooh, that was not an S. Wow. Just pretend that that actually looks pretty. We are, well, you guys get to sit in comfy chairs, but my chair isn't really comfy. Not comfy, sad face. I can talk with you guys instead of having to record myself and talk at y'all. It's definitely not awkward, but also one thing that I miss is getting to like check in daily with y'all. Like here at home, I don't get to do that. Wake up early. Take bathroom breaks. Unless I take scheduled bathroom breaks, because that's really where it's different. Like, yeah, we can go in the middle of class sometimes, but like, I can't just like leave y'all whenever I want to. I get to see you daily, so I don't have to miss you because I see you all the time. And we have scheduled recess. And then one thing that some things that I could put in the middle are, I'm still teaching, whether I'm at school or at home, I'm still doing that. I still have to lesson plan. I still talk with my coworkers, only now it's through Zoom. I work daily. Still doing things for kids. And so if I had more room, I could keep going, but hopefully you get the picture. So on one side, I have everything that I could think of about learning at school that I also don't do at home. And then on this side, I've got everything about learning at home that is different from at school. And then in the middle, I have just things that I would do whether I'm at work or at home. I teach, I lesson plan, I talk with my coworkers, I work every day, and I'm doing things for kids, no matter if I'm at home or at school. So there's just your reminder of how to fill out your Venn diagram to compare and contrast. When you get to yours in your packet, let me find that page. This is what it looks like. So it's already got a spot over here for Kate and the Beanstalk, and it's got a page over here for Jack and the Beanstalk, and in the center it's labeled as both. The only thing is you can pick whatever character you want from each one. Okay, so you could pick the giant in each one and see how that was the same or different. You could pick Kate and Jack and see the differences there. You could pick the difference in the giant's wife. Just make sure that whoever you pick, they do have some things in common. Like, you don't want to pick two completely random people who aren't comparable at all, because that's really not going to work. You want to see specifically, how did this person change from this story to this story? So if I were going to do this, I would probably go obvious and just choose Kate and Jack. But you can pick whatever route you want to go to, because this is your page. Just make sure that when you're picking somebody that you actually know some things to write about. Otherwise, that's going to be pretty hard for you. I think that is it for reading for today. So once you have filled out your Venn diagram, make sure you take a picture of it. And then before you finish up, make sure you look back at your 3rd grade reading and ELA choice board. And you want to put a check mark that you've done your Venn diagram for today. And then you can pick any other one that you want. Okay, so let's read through these real quick. It says, practice your sight words. Play war with a family member. See how many words you can name automatically. So if you're playing war with a family member, you would take your sight word cards and you would split them in half. If you don't have any, you can just write the words on some pieces of paper or some index cards. So you'd split those words into 2 decks. your partner would take a deck and you'd take a deck, and you're going to flip them over. And then you could just say whoever says their card word first gets to take both of those cards. And the objective of the game would be to get all of the cards in your hand. 2 says draw a picture of each person who lives in your house. Brainstorm all of the adjectives you can think of that describe each person and write them on each person's page. So if I was doing that, I would have one for me, one for Jordan. That's only 2 people, so I'm going to also count Duke and Zoe. So then I would go through, maybe on Duke's I would write lazy, funny, handsome, old. And then on Zoe's I would write cute, playful, small, fluffy, smart. On Jordan's, I'll try to be nice here. Funny, sarcastic, helpful, handsome. Go ahead and make your little comments. And then on mine, I might put creative, awkward, talented, clumsy. And I can keep going on those, but you can just, let's just say like you could list 4 or 5 for each one. You can keep going as many as you want to. But so the way I would do it is I would take my piece of paper and draw that person and then just write all the words around them. Make it look cute. You can give it to that person, or your adjectives may not be as nice. You may not want that person to see them. That's up to you. But you're going to have to take a picture of it and send that to me as well. Oh yeah, how you can send a picture of number 1. You could just take a picture of whoever wins and send it to me. That's fine. Number 3, create your own comic strips or graphic novels. Remember, those are the ones like our sister's book or our Smile book. Those are both considered graphic novels. It's anything that looks like a comic strip inside of that. So it says that you can use this resource link below where you can go click if you're online, or you can make your own on a piece of white paper, or you could Google your own comic strip template, however you want to do that. And then you take a picture and send it to me. 4 says describe the setting in your favorite book. What is it about where that book takes place that makes it your favorite? So like if your favorite book was The Wild Robot, you might talk about the fact that it's your favorite because of the setting is kind of because it's like on its own island and there's lots of different habitats and a bunch of different animals, and you would just kind of explain why that's your favorite. You can take a picture of that, or if you want to record a video and send it to me, that's fine too, kind of however you want to do that. Number 6, create a word web with words describing the main character of a book you've read. Explain how each word you chose describes the main character. So if you're going to make a word web, it would kind of look, wow, see, clumsy, one of the most perfect adjectives for me. So if I was going to make a word web about, let's say I wanted to make one about our wild robot, Roz. Okay, so then I might just draw some different webs off of here, and I start listing some things. So Roz is intelligent. She is compassionate. Obviously, please don't choose the same one as me and just write the same words as me. You need to pick one from a book that you have read. Technically, I read this book to you, so maybe you need to pick something else. And so you keep going around like that until you have filled them all out. However many you want, I'd say at least 5. And explain how each word you chose describes the main character. So maybe at the bottom of my paper, I would do this like on notebook paper or something. I might say Roz is compassionate because she is always looking for ways to help people. I bet I'm going to run out of room. I can squeeze it. Okay. So that's what your word web would look like. And you would just keep going, just writing one sentence to explain why each of those words works for your main character. 7 says, read a book of your choice. Stop at a point where you can make an inference. If you remember, an inference means that you're going to make an educated guess about it. So if I was reading Kate and the Giant Beanstalk, I would read to a point where I think I could guess what's going to happen next. And so that's when I would stop and I would take my piece of paper and write down, based on what I've read so far, I think that blah, 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 blah. You're just going to make a guess. And then when you do that, you're going to use text evidence to support your inference. So don't just say what you think is going to happen. Also say why you think that's going to happen. So if you thought that, I think that Kate is going to get caught at some point, you need to write down why you think Kate was going to get caught by the giant. Okay, my inference might be because in Jack and the Beanstalk, the giant had to have a reason to come down the beanstalk. So I think that's why it's going to happen in this story too. Now, your inference may not end up being correct, but that's not the point. The point is that you're just making a guess based on what you have read. Number 8 says, help your family make lunch or dinner and write down all the adjectives and adverbs that are used in the preparations. Remember, an adjective describes a noun. So like blend until smooth. So if I'm using that word smooth, I'm probably describing the batter or whatever I'm mixing. Like if I don't want my mashed potatoes to be chunky, I need to stir them until they are smooth. And then an adverb is whenever, remember a lot of times it ends in ly, but it doesn't have to. But that explains how you do something. It's added to the verb. It's like an adjective, but for a verb. So stir slowly, or add quickly, or cool slowly, something like that. It says read for 30 minutes on number 9. Think of 3 questions you could ask the main character of a book you've read. Write them down. Now pretend you're the main character and answer them. So I would take my piece of paper and I'm just going to number it 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to think of like 3 interview questions that I might ask them. Okay, so if I was talking to Roz, I might say, do you think you are developing the ability to have feelings? Because remember at the beginning of the book, I mean, she's a robot. She's not actually supposed to be able to like feel anything. And our author keeps saying Roz felt something like love or something like that. So I would ask Roz that. And then definitely give yourself some more room here. So like this would be your question. Then you can write your answer down below it. So pretend you're Roz. So I would say, I think, and blah, blah, blah. Answer your question down there. And you do that for 3 different questions. Number 10 says, describe a time in a book you've read that one event directly caused something else to happen. Was the effect positive or negative? Explain your thinking and use text evidence. So if I'm talking about the wild robot, one event that comes to mind specifically would be when Roz climbed up the tree or was going down the mountain, I can't remember specifically, and she slammed into the tree that had the that geese nest in it. And because she did that, the nest fell and the whole family of geese died except for Brightbill. And so to me, that effect would be a negative effect at the beginning because Brightbill lost his family, but it ended up being positive for Roz and for Brightbill because it gave them each other. 11 says create a short timeline of the key events in a book that you've read. Be creative. So if I'm making a timeline, remember, you start out with it looking kind of like a number line. And you just want to give yourself some room to write some important things. And you might have more lines than this, depending on how long you're talking about. So you could do like big ideas from a whole book, or you could do something from a chapter if you're still reading your book. It can be a picture book or a chapter book. That's up to you. So if I was going to be going through this, I might say Roz lands on the island. Roz breaks out of her crate. Roz tries to make friends. And so I would keep going through here, just big events that I remember. You want them to be important events. Don't just fill it with a bunch of random stuff. And it says be creative. So you could just write them, or you can make a poster of it and draw some pictures of it. However you want to do this is completely up to you. If you're good with computers, you might even want to try to make one on the computer. Number 12, your last one, says find 5 interesting words in your book or a chapter of your book. Create a product that defines each word in your own words. Illustrate each word and give an antonym or synonym for each word. So whatever book you're reading, you're just going to find 5 words. I think that's what it said. Yeah, 5 interesting words. And then for each one, you're going to tell what that word means to you, illustrate it, and give an antonym or synonym. So if I was doing mine, let me pull out Wild Robot real quick. So I just flipped to a random page. I see this word ricocheted. Okay, so let me write that down. And Zoe's losing her mind. Sorry. Ricocheted. And I'm just going to go ahead and write down the page number in case I need to look at that again. Zoe, it's okay. Be quiet. Sorry in advance if she keeps doing that. So the next thing I'm going to do is tell in my own words what that means. So in my own words, it would mean like to bounce off of something. Because the way that I've heard that before is like the bullet ricocheted off of the metal wall or something like that. So it bounces off of something. I should say of. And illustrate each word. So let's see, this is one of those times where I'm glad I wrote down the page number because now I can go back to it and I can see how that is used. So 163. They ricocheted. Okay, so what are we talking about? They. Hailstones. They tore through leaves and branches. They ricocheted off rocks and roots. So if I am doing that, I've got my ground here. And I've got hail coming down. And I'm like drawing some movement here. Kind of made it look funny, but that's okay. And so like this one, it might have just bounced off of that rock. So now it's like going out this way. And this one might have bounced off of this rock, and so now it's going out this way. Don't judge my doodles. And give an antonym or synonym for each word. Okay, so antonym and synonym. Now, depending on what word you picked, this could be easy or it could be hard. So ricochet to me would be a synonym, would be bounced. Because remember, synonym, synonym, same, same, same. Antonym, antonym, opposite. So then if I go to antonym, see, that's where it gets kind of hard for me. If it doesn't bounce off of something, I don't really know what that would be. So this would be one of those times where if you needed to Google it, you could. So that's what I'm going to do. Just give me 1 second. Let me pull that up. So let's see. Antonym for... I don't even remember how to spell this word. Ricochet. And now Zoe's licking my toes under this desk. Super awkward. Okay, yeah, so synonym for ricochet was bounce. Well, where in the world is an antonym? Zoe, stop. Well, that wasn't super helpful. So I'm just going to make up one. If something doesn't bounce off of something, maybe it... Shoot, I don't know. Antonym might be hard. Pick a better word than I picked. Make it easier for yourself. So that's everything for reading. I know this lesson was long today. Usually they'll probably only be about 5 minutes or less, but I wanted to go ahead and go through your whole choice board with you. That way you would know what each one of them are, since you do get a choice in what you're doing. So for today, your job is to do number 5, and then to pick any other one that you want. So any of those that sounded fun to you, you can do that. And just remember, you have today and tomorrow to finish that. So you have Monday and Tuesday to finish those. And make sure you get your pictures to me, because I have to be writing down how you're doing on that. So make sure that you're doing that part, because that's super, super important, so I can make sure I know how you're doing with everything. Okay, I think that's it. Next up is social studies.